Three.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Thompson, product manager for WebSphere, and today we're going to talk about WebSphere Automation and how it can help you understand and stay on top of your patching SLAs. So let me share my screen and we'll jump right in. All right, so WebSphere Automation started from a series of conversations that we've been having with our WebSphere customers, and through those conversations, we really identified three main areas of what I'll call business risks that are impacting WebSphere applications today. Those can really be distilled down to three main areas. Number one is a growing complexity that we see. As more customers do digital transformation or application modernization, whatever it is that you're calling that in your organization, as you begin to embrace new deployment models, cloud technologies, different runtimes, all of those things that are really sort of beginning to really sort of mature in the enterprise space, that increases the amount of things that the operations teams needs to manage. And with WebSphere being such a critical component of so many of those things, that growing complexity can really present quite a challenge to the operations teams. We also know through the historical trends that the security risks out there are accelerating. And really, I mean, nothing is more sort of poignant than the Log4j vulnerability that we saw that made global headline news at the end of last year. Severity 10 issue impacting millions of Java applications. It was very significant. And that is really just one example of the kind of vulnerabilities that especially enterprises need to respond very, very quickly to, because it really creates an uncomfortable level of exposure for them. So when you combine this growing complexity, the increase in the number of services that are being deployed, the number of instances that are being used, as well as the sort of acceleration of the security space, that really feeds into the third and final area of business risk, which is people resources, right? There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many people on the team. Usually, many teams are being asked to do more with less, right? Trying to squeeze blood from that stone. And getting skilled, knowledgeable people are really at a premium. And that's what led us to build WebSphere Automation in the first place. And one of the very first things that we did was we asked the WebSphere user base, what are your biggest challenges? And probably not surprisingly, the number one answer that came back was, help us understand our security posture, help us understand and keep our WebSphere environments up to date and protected. So really, that really was the number one pain point, right? As an operations team, you are responsible for maintaining hundreds or thousands of servers, right, running across all sorts of environments, production, test, pre-prod. All of that is very time consuming. And we were actually surprised to learn how manual that process remains in many customer shops. And when you combine that manual process of tracking and determining these security vulnerabilities with the fact that there's some security focal in the enterprise somewhere saying, look, we need to be secure 24/7. We need to be on the latest security fixes. When there's a patch made available by IBM, you need to pick it up and deploy it within 30, 60, 90 days. That really begins to sort of be the sort of quintessential example of pressure on those teams to be able to respond very, very quickly with a very large environment normally. So what that usually looks like in the conversations that we had is we IBM send out a generic security notification. We're like, hey, there's a vulnerability in WebSphere. Well, we send that to everybody, right? Anyone who's interested in learning about WebSphere vulnerabilities can subscribe to this channel. It's then incumbent upon you, the user, to read and understand that vulnerability and answer the question, does it affect me, right? You need to sort of understand what your inventory is. And we were actually surprised to learn that a lot of that inventory maintenance is still very manual, whether that's in a spreadsheet or a manually maintained database. It is someone's job somewhere to make sure that that stays accurate and up to date so that you can do these quick assessments and understand, yeah, actually we have this vulnerability in our environment and it's impacting us. Someone out there needs to do that correlation. Once that correlation's done, depending on the severity of the vulnerability, there's going to be a conversation with your security focal, like, do we need to fix this now? Can we remediate this? Is this something we can wait on? But ultimately, you're going to want to apply a fix, whether that is an individual iFix, resolving a vulnerability immediately or waiting for the next fix pack. At some point in time, that fix is going to get applied. The environment's going to update, and you're going to have to update that inventory information to know that that vulnerability was fixed, that that new version level was deployed. And then very, very often we hear customers saying to us, like, we need to report the status of this to somebody. There's some compliance officer somewhere that's going to want to know, did you meet your patching SLA? Did you deploy within that 30, 60-day time frame, right? Are you able to react quickly enough to these things? And that's exactly the set of capabilities that we help with WebSphere Automation today. We're able to ingest inventory information. We're able to ingest the security bulletin information. We're able to help you understand at a glance what your security exposures are, and we maintain that information automatically and we keep it up to date. So revisiting the security challenges, the growing complexity, we know that these challenges are present in the WebSphere customer base, right? We know that these are not unique to WebSphere, but being a WebSphere automation product, we're very focused on our WebSphere customers, and we want to deliver a solution that really helps resolve a lot of these challenges. And through those same customer conversations, we really identified sort of three aspects of a solution that would be critical for us. Number one is simplification of the tooling, right? Make it easy to have visibility to the environment, make it very easy to understand what the exposures are, make it easy to understand what actions need to be taken. And do that through a lens of a term you may or may not be familiar, which is evergreen infrastructure, right? Help you keep that environment constantly up to date, constantly on the latest versions, latest fix packs, so that you can stay ahead of bad actors with the best security posture possible. And do all of that while offloading these manual tasks that we have today to reduce the manual toil, so that operations teams can stay focused on more interesting, more strategic activities like digital transformation projects or bringing cloud into the environment, whatever it is that application modernization, digital transformation initiative that's going on at your company. A lot of times the operation teams are so overloaded with the work they need to do today, they're kind of cut out of those conversations. So if we can deliver a simplified tool that helps you stay current and does an offloading a lot of tasks, that's exactly the kind of automation that we want to apply to the existing and future WebSphere environments. So through collaboration with our WebSphere customers, identifying our requirements, our designs, and our roadmap prioritization, that really led to WebSphere Automation and the use cases that we support today. So one of the very first things we did was we helped understand what is the breadth of a particular CVE in your environment. As I sort of talked about in that sort of as-is flow, it's a very manual process today. Someone has to go off and read, understand, and correlate those bulletins to know whether or not those things impact you. With WebSphere Automation, there's actually no longer a need to do that. We ingest the security bulletin information. We use that to determine what servers in your environment are vulnerable, and we present that through a consolidated dashboard and provide contextualized email notifications so that as an operations team, you can let WebSphere Automation worry about determining whether or not the latest security bulletin actually impacts your environment, and if it does, exactly which servers are impacted. And perhaps one of the nicest things about this is WebSphere Automation does not require you to install an APAR or update to a particular fix pack to connect your existing WebSphere environment. We leverage technology that's been in WebSphere for quite a few years. So as long as you're on kind of anything current, the capability to use WebSphere Automation is already baked into the WebSphere application server and Liberty servers. We also had, as a lot of really good feedback from our initial delivery, this feedback that we have these patching SLAs. I'm an operations team. I have to respond to these vulnerabilities quickly if they reach that level of concern, right? If this is an 8.0 or higher severity CVE, I need to know about it quickly because I need to be patching that within my 30, 60, 90-day time frame, and I have to demonstrate that this was done. So with WebSphere Automation version 1.3, which we released in March, you're able to see now in WebSphere Automation itself exactly when a vulnerability was detected, when and how it was fixed. Did we upgrade to a fix pack? Did we deploy an iFix? And how long were you exposed? And we make all this information easily obtained. It's visible in the dashboard. You can export it via various APIs so that you can demonstrate to the compliance teams that your environment is updated, it's maintained, and you're staying on top of your SLAs. We do all of this through automated inventory tracking. In order to understand your security posture, you need to have an accurate real-time understanding of the services that you have running, right? And kind of maintaining that accurate data is really a pain point. So at the heart of what WebSphere Automation is doing is it's tracking all of the WebSphere servers that you have chosen to register. We support traditional WebSphere in any edition, WebSphere Base, WebSphere ND, WAS for ZOS. We support Liberty in all of its flavors. And we do that across deployment environments. So whether you're running WAS ND on virtual machines or you've taken the step to run Liberty in containers, it doesn't matter what version of WebSphere you're running. It doesn't matter where you got your entitlement from or what edition you're using or whether it's in VMs or containers. All of that can be registered with WebSphere Automation. We bring that together in a centralized, consolidated dashboard to give you that breadth and scope of the environment. And I'm gonna Alt Tab to a live demo here, and just and we'll see this in real time. Live demos are always interesting, so pray to the demo gods that while I show you this, nothing horrible happens and nothing falls over. But what we're looking at here is a real running instance of WebSphere Automation. I'm going to go off this tab just for a quick second and talk about what we've got registered here. So in the environment, I have a mix of different things that are registered. I've got a Liberty server registered here. You can see that's 21.0012. So not the most recent version of Liberty, but basically the version that we had at the end of last year. I've got a pretty recent version of traditional WebSphere running on x86 hardware. And I've also got some WebSphere for ZOS registered at a mix of levels. So I've got my Liberty, I've got my Liberty, I've got my traditional WebSphere, and I've got my WAS for ZOS, all registered in the same exact view. There we go. Apologies for that. So with WebSphere Automation, we can bring together all of these disparate views so that you can see it in a single consolidated dashboard. And that's this first view that I was sharing at the beginning. So WebSphere Automation brings those different environments together, and it's showing me what security vulnerabilities I have not yet addressed. So in this case, we have some 9.8 severity issues in my WAS for ZOS environment. We actually just set this up kind of yesterday for the demo purpose. You can see that I've got my WAS Liberty server down here at the bottom. It's only got one unresolved CVE, and it's a severity 4.8. So very, very likely this is not at the threshold that you would need to take immediate action on this. This is usually the kind of vulnerability that our customers tell us they'll wait for the next fix pack cycle to address because it's not particularly concerning. But you can drill into the information on this to understand what exactly the exposure is. You can drill into the specific security bulletin, see all of the information that we normally publish. Right, I can see my affected product versions. I can see what the remediations and the fixes are. All of that is available at my fingertips, and we bring a lot of that directly inline into the tool. So if I go back and I take a look at, say, my 855 server, you can see here that I've got a couple unresolved vulnerabilities, nothing too severe, but I've applied a bunch of iFixes. If I drill into this, you can see at the high level, we bring a lot of information into WebSphere Automation. You can see the host that this is installed on, the version that it is, my install location, those kinds of key identifying information. But I also have a list of all the iFixes that were applied. So here's all of the APARs that we applied actually just yesterday to get this server into this particular state. And if I click on my vulnerabilities tab here, you can see that I addressed this 9.8 severity issue. That is currently resolved. It was only exposed for about a day. And we first detected that yesterday afternoon. There's some other vulnerabilities that haven't been resolved. And that's just because we wanted to have a server that sort of showed a mix of environments. To understand how I got to this case, I can drill into my fix history. So we can see here that the server was created around 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. We actually rolled back some product versions in order to put it into an insecure state so we could show it to you. And then we installed a couple iFixes to be able to get it to this point where I've addressed the most severe issue, right? This 9.8 issue, and that was done with my iFix. But I've also installed a bunch of other fixes as well. And this is the new capability that we added in the March release, the ability to track at a very fine-grained level exactly when and how the server was changed to address these various security vulnerabilities. Because we know that is a question that operations teams very often have to answer. So by drilling into this information, I can see it at a per server level, but if I also go back to the dashboard, I can get a view of all of my CVEs across the environment. You can actually see that this environment dates back to sort of early last month where we initially set it up and we registered some servers. The top issue here, of course, is that infamous log4j vulnerability, which we fixed basically immediately because you don't want to leave that lying around. But you can see here from this top level view how many servers I've fixed, how many servers remain vulnerable, the earliest detection date, and you can begin to drill in and get the details of any of these particular CVEs so that if you have a compliance question, if you've got some sort of incident in the network and you need to understand exactly what was exposed when, WebSphere Automation handles all of that, it tracks all of that, makes it information very easy to access and consume. And all of this can be exported from WebSphere Automation itself. All the information we're looking at is ultimately backed by REST APIs. Those are callable directly. You can sort of script against it. And more simply, you can hit this button here and get a CSV representation of the information that we're seeing. So WebSphere Automation really started from that customer conversation about WebSphere users needing to understand what their scope and environments are, needing to understand what the security postures are, and WebSphere Automation helps address that. So the capabilities that we deliver today, right? We've got the full estate view. We have multi-environment. You can see a mix of WASND, Liberty, WAS for ZOS, WAS base, all of that in that one view. We provide email-based notifications for when new vulnerabilities are discovered or when new vulnerable assets are registered. So if we create a brand new server and register it and it has log4j unresolved, an email will be sent to the interested parties, right, whoever you've configured, to notify them that that vulnerability exists. You can click into the tool, get more information, and all of that is automated. as we deliver more and more capabilities around this security posture capability, we are actively working on automated patching. So the ability to, through the WebSphere Automation UI, actually one-click deploy fixes out to the affected environments, so that those vulnerabilities which we've detected and informed you about can similarly be patched in that same workflow. Now, we believe automation is an absolutely key element of modern environments. WebSphere Automation is sort of an augmented set of capabilities that sits alongside WebSphere Hybrid Edition, where you can get all of your access to the WebSphere runtimes, both WebSphere Liberty and traditional WebSphere, as well as access to our modernization tools, Transformation and Advisor and Mono to Micro. So overall, WebSphere Automation, we believe, is a great complement to your existing WebSphere environments. We think it's absolutely strategic in terms of growing with you as you maintain your existing environments, as you begin to tackle those new initiatives, whether that's building on cloud native or application modernization, and all of that. You get the same sort of support from IBM and the value of the IBM relationship. So if you're interested in trying WebSphere Automation, there's a couple different ways you can try it. The one that I always recommend, because it's the easiest, is our hosted trial. All you need is a browser and an IBM ID. You can go to ibm.biz/WSA trial. And from there, you simply register and you get a private dedicated instance to you where you can log in to WebSphere Automation. You get a fully working instance of WebSphere Automation, as well as a virtual machine provisioned for you that has traditional WebSphere and Liberty already installed. There's a set of instructions that you can follow to get you familiar with WebSphere Automation. And if you so choose, you can even bring your own servers and register them into WebSphere Automation, so you can sort of see it, using your own data. So highly recommend that. That's a great way to start. If that piques your interest and you want to go a level further, we do have a 60-day trial that you can use to do an on-premises POC. That's fully available as well. And if you have any questions about any of that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm Mike Thompson, so mcthomps@us.ibm.com. And if you want to learn more, we do, of course, have our product pages, and then we have a good set of demo videos out there that sort of take the time to deep dive and walk through the various use cases that I touched on today. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to take a look and see if we have anything, any questions in the chat, and then we'll kind of go from there. So two questions that I see in the chat. So IBM WebSphere Automation covered TWAS, Liberty, and the SDK. If I have a CVE in the IBM HTTP server, is that covered by the product? That's a great question. The answer is not yet. Support for IBM HTTP server, or IHS for short, is something we have in our roadmap. That is absolutely a capability that we will be adding. We don't have a view or an outlook on the time frame for that, but supporting kind of all of the core componentry of WebSphere as part of WebSphere Automation, IHS being an important one, is absolutely part of the roadmap. And then another good question on ZOS: how are the iFixes, FixPacks, and iFixes applied? So we are still in the process of building out that capability, so I'm going to sort of skirt the details of that question just a little bit, but I will talk more generally about what we're doing and the direction that we're following for that. So we know that customers have a variety of different ways that environments are defined and maintained. With the initial revision of this capability that we're working on, we are focused primarily on what I'll call the non-containerized deployment case. The way that you patch and update containers, which I imagine many people know, is to rebuild a container image. When you do that, right, it has a very different sort of workflow than doing what I'll call like more of a virtual machine based installation. So with the initial revision of our patch deployment capability, we're focused primarily on those virtual machine like environments. That could be bare metal, it could be VMs on the distributed side, it could be ZOS. And there's sort of two usage patterns we know customers generally follow. The first being sort of just this traditional in-place update where I've got my installation, I want to do a patch, I download the patch to the machine, I modify that installation in place, and then then I'm patched. Alternatively, and this seems to be increasingly popular and is very common on ZOS, so hopefully this sort of answers the question, is this what we call swinging profiles, where instead of patching an install, you actually generate a new install, lay that down next to that old install, and then you swing the profiles or you point the configuration to use the updated environment. We know both of those are incredibly important. Both of those are widely used in our customer base, and we're working to support both of those. That capability is not in the product right now, but it's currently under development. All right. So I don't see any other questions at this time. I'll give it just a couple moments in case anything else comes in, but hopefully you found this interesting. If you've got more questions, please reach out to me. I'm Michael Thompson, mctomps@us.ibm.com. I'd be happy to have an email conversation or a one-on-one meeting, whatever you'd like to do. Very happy to do that. All right. I don't see any new questions in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for attending and watching. I think we can probably wrap the webinar up. So thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye for now.